This episode's out of context quote is brought to you by Pfizer.
Somebody might want that back later, Keith. You shouldn't bury other people's hatchets.
Indian gift barrier.
Indian gift barrier. Oh, that's terrible.
Stop it.
Welcome
to the Naked Apple.
Here we are.
On this fabulous, nothing newsworthy day.
Here we come to save the day.
Because the news, as always, is underwhelming.
Keith, Mike, how are you? How are you?
Fantabulous.
Fantabulous.
Really great, as usual.
Good.
I'm so much better now that I've listened to the first 10 minutes of Trump's interview. And I learned all about the perfect phone call he made.
Perfect.
Absolutely perfect phone call.
They tell me it was perfect.
They tell me it was perfect in every way.
Every way perfect.
It's a very, very Trumpy way of describing it. I like it.
It was so good.
They're trying to give me a perfect phone call. Can you believe that, folks? Can you believe it? It's perfect.
Just the comedy act. It's just so good. It's just so
It's
good.
almost as if he's been an entertainer for most of his life.
Almost.
Almost
that way.
Hey, we're canceling The Apprentice. Watch, I'll be on TV 24/7 anyway. Got him.
I reject your business proposal.
And substitute my own. Donald Trump doesn't live rent-free in our heads. Ah, yes, of course, which is why you followed his motorcade from Florida all the way to New York.
I mean, so so you kind of have to do a litmus test here because, like, really though, you have to think about it. If the tables were flipped, would you be just inanely excited about the other side being in the position that he's in?
Yes, because there's actual crimes there.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
But think about it from the perspective of a liberal who's listened to nothing but CNN for years. They think that there's actual crimes here, too.
They're also retarded.
No, so you may recall that when Trump won the 2016 election, there was talk of actually arresting Hillary and locking her up.
Yes, Hillary,
as it were. But Trump, he decided not to do that because...
we still need to do our skit disproving the suicide of that one man.
Yes.
Anyway,
continue.
Yeah. Anyway, and Trump decided not to do that because the political consequences would be like outsized, like not worth it, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like this. If we assume for a minute that the claims were sound, which I do think they were, but
they totally were.
Let's put that aside for a minute. But let's assume that they were sound, but then Trump decided not to go after her for political reasons, but not partisan political reasons. I do think that was the right thing to do. But then again, this sets a precedent because if they're going to do it, we can't not do it because I do believe in Reagan's mutually assured destruction, but applied to on the political sphere, that if you pull that genie out of the bottle, like
it's out.
It's out of the bottle.
Yeah, if you're going to subpoena the Secret Service to bear testimony against the former president of the United States, you also have to subpoena the Secret Service to bear testimony against the former vice president of the United States.
Yeah, because as much as I long for a time where both sides could respect each other and do things in good faith, that is simply not the time that we live in because of the left.
And not just that, but as shaky of a case as they have on Trump, they have Joe Biden on video recorded admitting to the things that we accuse him of.
Yeah, using
bragging
his
about
as vice president to withhold funds from Ukraine.
Yes, yeah. They have him. They have him on video. So there's absolutely zero chance that you should not indict the man. It should go to trial. There should be evidence presented, and because of the way that they've handled this Trump thing, they should be bringing the Secret Service in to testify against him.
I think the compromise you do is you have the trial be very public.
Oh yes,
instead of behind closed doors.
Oh yes, which they're not doing with Trump.
That's what's happening. Yeah, exactly. Whereas for politicians, any politician, because they are an elected public official,
anything like this should be done in the public.
Should be done
yes,
in the public, 100%.
In the public eye, 100%.
Because that should eliminate the partisan side of it, of saying, here's all of the evidence presented on one side, here's all the evidence presented on the other, and the jury said, yeah, that way or this way. However, that being said, the Kyle Rittenhouse thing was basically entirely public, and people still lost their minds that he was
Acquitted.
That's because they had no idea what was going on. They didn't actually watch the trial. They didn't actually follow it. They didn't actually know anything about it. They just watched the
highlights from CNN.
They watched the highlights from CNN, which spun it the way that they wanted to spin it, because they wanted him to be guilty, because they wanted a reason to go after guns and these different things like that. And there wasn't one there, because Kyle Rittenhouse is the perfect example of self-defense. And I'm still pissed at Black Rifle Coffee.
Yes. For backing out of his,
Yeah, because they backed out, they pussied out, and they walked away when they should have supported him.
Yep.
Especially when it came out that he was innocent.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Black Rifle Coffee totally...
That being said, I wasn't going to be buying their coffee in the first place because I hate coffee.
Exactly, but I would have on this... on this podcast and on social media and stuff. Even before on social media and stuff, I would share their videos and stuff because
they had some awesome
I supported it. Yeah, I supported the message that they had. I didn't really care about coffee because I don't drink coffee, but I supported their support of freedom. They backed out of that support with Kyle Rittenhouse, and I no longer share or watch their videos or any of their stuff.
Right.
Ever. I never do anymore.
It's the principle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We're paving their parking lot, and I could give a shit about the company.
Pave paradise.
Yeah.
Put up a parking lot.
Basically. But that's all beside the point.
All right. Well, anyway, we'll talk about...
We'll get into it. Yep. We always get into it because that's what we do.
Sometimes real deep into it.
Oh, so deep. On that note...
Get in there nice and deep.
Nice and deep like...
Keith hasn't seen that movie.
No, he hasn't.
I need to do a default thing when you guys have jokes that I just don't get. Maybe I should just check my watch.
Have you seen Dodgeball?
No.
See?
Yep.
I was
called it.
No, if you pick a movie, odds are I haven't seen it.
John Wick.
Nope.
What?
Yep.
It's like one of the greatest action movies.
I
watched it last night with my wife. It's been
on my to-do list.
I apparently lent John Wick 2 to somebody and forgot. So I had to buy it again yesterday.
Rude.
It's going to be here tomorrow. After which I will watch it. And then I will watch 3. And then I will go to 4.
Because that's what Americans do.
That's what Americans do.
No, I will admit it's been on my radar. So
John Wick is awesome. It's one of my favorite action movies.
The problem with having movies on my radar is I don't actually watch movies. So
you can borrow it. I've got it.
Okay.
I don't actually watch movies. You can
borrow
borrow
you got me to watch Die Hard. So
I did get you to watch Die Hard. John Wick is probably one of my all-time favorite action movies. It's definitely my favorite Keanu Reeves movie, and that's saying something because The Matrix exists. The first one, and only the first one is what I'm referring to. But
I haven't seen that either.
Why is he here? Who let him in?
What the hell is even that?
Anyways, now that we got to boost our spirits.
Apparently we have an Overton window for being culturally educated in the movies. In cinema.
And you're falling
and
short.
Outside of it.
Well short of the window.
Well,
you're like a cat, but you can't jump. And that's a problem.
No,
Squee! Yeah, when I say that, all I can think about is that short clip of the cat jumping off of the balcony set to AWOL Nation's Sail.
All right.
Sail!
I'll watch some of these movies, and then we can have a segment on what I thought of them. How about that?
That sounds great. Yes.
Keith reviews
Keith
movies
gets
he should've-
cultured. Keith gets cultured. That's the name of the segment. That's what we're doing. Keith gets cultured.
There we go.
I was thinking Keith reviews movies he should have saw a while ago.
He should have saw that.
But
Keith gets cultured is a little bit more to the point.
That's a little shorter, flows off the tongue better. Yes.
It does. It's got a nice ring to it.
Well, after all that disappointment, I think we need a little bit of a pick-me-up from this week's
With vitamin B?
Yes.
Ah, here we go. Welcome to your vitamin B.
Oh, thank you.
We've got some news for you today.
No, you don't.
You're right, I don't.
Call
This has
the bluff.
been your vitamin B. I'm just kidding. Here we go. To begin, beverage pretending to be beer features man pretending to be woman.
I thought this was vitamin
It is.
B.
It is.
Okay.
That-
It
yeah,
continues.
that's
We
not,
have more. More on this story.
Moron.
Yes. Scientists at Budweiser attempt to discover how many beers it would take for Dylan Mulvaney to pass as a woman.
Those are some thick beer goggles.
Speaking of people being drunk, Dylan Mulvaney to replace Laura Croft in next Tomb Raider game.
Oh gosh.
No.
No.
Oh no.
Yeah,
No one wants that.
nobody wants that.
So naturally they'll make it happen.
The answer to the former question is there aren't enough beers on the planet.
No, there is not.
No.
Speaking of which, Pelosi, quote, "We have to convict Trump on the charges to find out what is in them."
That's a callback.
It is. In other news, the Democrats throw the biggest ever fundraiser for Trump campaign. For those of you that don't understand what I'm talking about, Trump's been indicted. We have here the 9 things that happen next. First, Trump will take the best, most beautiful mugshot the world has ever seen. Second, the entire NYPD will wait in line to take selfies with him. Third, Trump will be stripped nude and marched through the city with a pagan priest yelling shame and ringing a bell. Fourth, Trump's lawyers will file to dismiss the case on the grounds that a man and his mistress can't be charged with the same crime. That's a thinking man's joke.
It takes a second.
5, the judge will then determine Trump's guilt by having him tossed into the Hudson to see if he floats. Number 6, Trump will be thrown in jail, where Epstein's prison guards will be called out of retirement for one last mission.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Number 7, Dementors will attempt to suck Trump's life force away, but he will be able to ward them off with a Patronus of himself.
Is that
gosh.
is that you?
Amazing.
Number 8,
With the hair just billowing.
I'm my own spirit animal.
And it goes up to the
Expecto Perfect Patrona!
it goes up to the Dementor.
man.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Bringing Harry Potter into this. This is good.
I'm going to need you to sit down.
Excuse
Excuse me.
Excuse me. No. You're fake Dementors.
I told them no. They wanted my soul. I told them no.
He's had a perfect
And it was
soul.
the end of the story.
Perfect soul.
Perfect soul.
No.
Number 8, Trump will escape prison by slowly tunneling his way out behind a poster of Stormy Daniels. Number 9, every other politician will also be arrested for their crimes.
Yeah. I mean, one can dream.
In related news, Trump pens his first prison epistle to the Floridians. This letter, already being dubbed First Floridians, is highly anticipated by its future recipients. Matt Gaetz is quoted as saying, "We are looking forward to President Trump's letter. Receiving his encouragement and instruction about how we should be living in his absence will be treasured resource for all of us while he is held prisoner."
That's peak Babylon
That's
Bee
amazing.
right there.
That's amazing.
I told you that this week had some gold.
First Floridians. That's the
Yes.
best joke I've heard all year.
I believe it's First Floridians.
One Floridians.
First Floridians verse 39 states, "My perfect hair,
Chapter 45 is
the
the
most
best one.
perfect of hairs that you have ever seen. My perfect hair is the guide by which ye shall find the promised land." In other news, Trump pleads guilty to being an incredible lover.
You're just jealous you didn't get her.
Oh god.
I am truly guilty, I must say. I have to admit it. I'm an amazing, wonderful, passionate, tender, and attentive lover. One of the greatest in all of human history. Many agree with me.
Many agree with me.
Women all over the world
Gosh.
could provide evidence to convict me on the charge of being the greatest lover.
Arrest me, officer.
I must confess, it's true. Bigly.
Bigly.
Yep. And other Trump trial news. The judge for the Trump trial has been revealed to be a kangaroo in a powdered wig.
It's quite the court.
It is. It is.
I wonder what you would call that.
Probably
In
Bobcat,
semi-related news, as the Trump fans gather in New York in lieu of the indictment, FBI agents excitedly don MAGA hats one last time.
Oh, that shouldn't be funny.
When told about the news, the ex-Vice President Biden, relieved to learn that the president being indicted for shady financial dealings is just Trump.
Mr. President, where are you going? Oh, I packed my bags for... Oh, it's not me? Oh. It's not me. Oh. I'll go get the pudding.
Scientists have discovered I can't talk tonight. Scientists have discovered a strong correlation between trusting government and eating paint chips. Speaking of people that eat paint chips, media is worried this Hitler fellow could cause violent backlash against Nazis.
All right, then.
Yep.
All right.
Many of you have heard of the QAnon shaman.
Yes.
Most people refer to him as Buffalo Guy.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, it's good news that Buffalo Guy was recently tagged and released back into the wild.
No, that is legitimately good news from what we learned about January 6th a few weeks ago.
Yes. Many of you have heard of the tragic happenings in the small, inconsequential state of Tennessee.
Yes.
A moment of silence has been called for from the media to recognize the shooter who was misgendered.
God.
That's very like the media.
And in
When is
lieu
the
of
satire
this,
going to start?
I know.
in lieu of this violent and tragic event, the FBI vows to get to the bottom of what Christians did to provoke the attack.
It's true. It's true.
In other semi-related news, though, Putin immediately surrendered this week after U.S. airdropped Nashville police officers into the battlefield.
My gives up.
My gives up. And this has been your Vitamin B.
That was solid right there, the first Floridian.
That's the best joke I think I've ever heard made.
No.
That's kind of
Around
blasphemous,
Trump.
though, isn't it?
That's
What makes it
funny.
First Floridians, chapter 45.
And I said to my people,
Let my people vote.
let my people vote.
In person.
Good. So, I have some things for this week's bushel.
Oh, good.
I'm already depressed enough. Can
Well,
we
that's-
just skip
How
it?
are you depressed? We just went through the vitamin B.
Yes.
We learned about First Floridians.
All right, now I
Remember,
feel-
when all else
All
fails,
right, now I'm emotionally ready.
when all else fails and you're feeling down, turn back to the scriptures, First Floridians, and you will be enlightened once again.
First Floridians 45:45.
Yes. The perfect verse, the
Perfect
perfect
verse.
chapter.
Perfect chapter.
It reads as follows.
In its perfection.
Oh, goodness.
Dude,
Yes.
Say what you will about the man. He is comedy gold.
Gold.
Just
From his hair to his skin, gold.
gold. Yes, we can make fun of both sides, and we do often.
Yes. Okay, Trevor, I'm ready.
You're ready?
Go for it.
All right. It's about time.
Well, we need a... Mike, you got an intro bit for me there for the weekly bushel?
Yes, I can come up with an intro bit here. Let's give me just 2 seconds here. What do we got here? Yes, I got one. This one.
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
Solid.
Splendid. Things that occurred this week for our bushel. The motive for the Vegas shooter, you remember that from 2017?
Oh, yes.
Finally
That
released.
finally come out?
Yes.
He finally has a motive.
If it wasn't for those damned casinos, he wouldn't have shot up the country music festival.
Seriously?
That is the motive they are going with.
Seriously?
Yes. George Soros should be banned from the U.S., not because he has done anything illegal, but because he makes illegal things acceptable. The Washington Examiner has a map that shows prosecutors across the country, and those prosecutors that were funded by him in some way, shape, or form. And it just so happens that 40% of murders occur where those prosecutors are.
What a surprise.
Yeah. The indictment for Trump is finally announced, and everything about it is a mess, but not as bad as Schiff's response to DeSantis' response, where he says he certainly knows better about the law. He knows what his obligation is to extradite someone who is accused of crime in another state. He's not a stupid person, and he understands this very well.
Yeah.
He mentioned that DeSantis is un-American.
Oh, of course. Of course he is.
Yeah. And also, it's kind of cowardly action by Ron DeSantis to try to compete with Donald Trump on Trump's own turf. Whatever that means. McDonald's.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
McDonald's.
They kind of made themselves a benchmark for cheap food and fast. Science. Exactly. So, what does it say about the U.S. economy if we might not be able to get food for cheap or fast? Because,
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
yeah, McDonald's is temporarily shutting down their corporate offices to prepare for layoffs.
Ha.
Huh.
Is that like to avoid backlash or?
I don't know.
All right. Well, we'll get into it later.
The president of Kenya has some financial advice. If McDonald's was worrisome to you, the news of that is worrisome to you, the president of Kenya puts our fears to rest by telling his people that, hey, if you have the dollar, you need to probably not have it in 2 weeks because the economy is changing.
What? That's horrifying.
That was last week. So you got 1 week left. Ish.
7 days. We have 7 days.
Yeah. Congress is planning to pass the Restrict Act to, ban TikTok or whatever. The great thing about the Restrict Act is its definitions are so vague it makes the Patriot Act blush with vagueness. Because if you have a VPN or even just use other social medias, you could go to jail for using those things and face a multi-$1,000 fine for it if it passes.
Wow.
Leslie Stahl decided it'd be a good idea to do a one-on-one interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it went about as expected.
The Democrats are a party of pedophiles.
I would definitely say so. They support grooming children.
They are not pedophiles. Why would you say that?
Democrats support, even Joe Biden, the president himself, supports children being sexualized and having transgender surgeries. Sexualizing children is what pedophiles do to children.
Wow. Okay.
She broke her for a moment there. Okay. Leslie Stahl had to reboot. Somehow, it's not the trans shooter fault for shooting up an elementary school. And Amazon has removed trans activist shirts after the Nashville Christian School shooting.
Good.
After the shirts did or were near selling out after the shooting. In response...
that's still good that they removed it.
Yes. After the shooting, a trans group released a statement to condemn the shooting by saying hate has consequences.
Oh my gosh.
Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, had this to say about the school shooting.
Our hearts go out to the trans community as they are under attack right now.
No! You dense, irritating miniature beast of burden!
I'm going to go with no, that's not what's happening.
Have you seen the news, Keith?
Yes, unfortunately.
Trans protesters stormed state...
The trans community that's under attack because one of them shot up a Christian school and killed a bunch of Christians.
Yes.
And so then they're worried about the trans community after that.
Yes, that is the official stance of the White House.
Wow.
Trans protesters stormed state capitol buildings after the shooting. They were holding up seven fingers as part of their protest.
Oh my gosh, an insurrection.
Which is odd because there were only 6 victims from the school shooting.
Oh.
So they were idolizing
the shooter
as a victim martyr.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Joe Biden, it's okay though, he's on it. He's calmed on the same day as all this was going down. The Trans Day of Awareness, whatever, because we couldn't see them before.
Day of Visibility.
Day of Visibility, yes. Yeah. We didn't know they existed until now. Joe Biden calmed the rioters by telling the world that trans, quote, are the bravest people he knows, end quote, and that, quote, transgender Americans shape our nation's soul, end quote.
Oh, I hope not.
That is your rundown of the weekly bushel.
Yay!
Son of a... You done messed up, AA Ron!
Yep. So, Keith, what's the rotten apple in that group for you? What just stood out to you of that's retarded? It's just gestured towards all of them.
I mean, the thing I most want to talk about is George Soros.
George Soros?
That, like, if most of the murders are coming from his district attorneys, that's a trend that's worth noting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. So that's the playbook, though. So the Marxist playbook is they want to make law-abiding citizens into criminals, and they want to make criminals into voters.
So putting my
That's it.
conspiracy hat on here for a minute, talking about the New World Order stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong on what the strategy, like the strategy of tyranny is here. Is they basically let all the criminals off the hook, just turn felonies into misdemeanors, and just basically not prosecute crime, which causes a lot of chaos amongst the populace.
Right.
And then the populace is like, things are really bad. And then the politicians who are trying to exert more control and like, oh my goodness, there's a crisis happening. Who can save you? Well, if you only give me more power, then maybe I can solve all your problems.
Yes. Create a crisis and don't let it go to waste.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah, and what's fun is, so George Soros has admitted that his favorite pastime is destabilizing countries.
He's admitted that.
He has said that. Yes.
He has said that. Yes.
And it's interesting because, you know, you're anti-Semitic. The pork of judgment is freaking out at me.
he's lost his mind.
Who's the one in Utah?
I don't know because it doesn't say at least on
Salt
these.
Lake
Yeah,
would be the Salt Lake DA.
yeah,
I'll have to look that up.
yeah. But
I'm in Utah County. So
it's
I
just
only pay
interesting
attention
because
to
you're anti-Semitic if you say
those
anything
local politics.
negative about George Soros, but everyone ignores the fact that George Soros happily turned Jews over to the Germans during the Holocaust. So there's that. And then he was born in Austria.
We're talking about George Soros.
George Soros.
Heroes?
Yes.
Here?
Just a little backstory from where he gets his ideas. He was born in Austria, I think it was.
All right.
The USSR didn't really have the ability to go to war with Austria, so they corrupted Austria to the point where they could not defend themselves at all against any kind of army, and so the USSR came in as saviors to rescue the destabilized Austria, where George Soros was born and raised, and now he's destabilizing countries around the world, to the point where there's 3 of the countries in the world that do not allow him to enter their country at all, one of them being Austria.
Yeah. So the district attorney of Salt Lake County is Sim Gill. Sim Gill was elected in November of 2010 as a veteran prosecutor.
He's been around that long.
He has been a champion on issues of therapeutic justice, criminal prosecution, and alternatives to prosecution. He has long been an advocate of taking a systems approach to the issues of criminal and social justice, focusing on collaborative and community-oriented approaches to problem solving. He is one of the ones that has collaborated on the creation and implementation of various therapeutic justice programs, including Mental Health Court, Veterans Court, Salt Lake City Domestic Violence Court, Misdemeanor Drug Court, and the Salt Lake Area Family Justice Center. These alternatives seek to transition those offenders out of the criminal justice system who can most benefit from other programs, giving them a much greater chance to not reoffend. That's what his page says.
So he was put in when?
2010, November. He's been part of a collaborative effort to address the homeless population and drug trafficking in the Rio Grande area.
Oh, I got to pull this up. Hold on. You're going to love this.
Oh, I am going to love this. I know. I think I know where you're going.
Love this. Love it. Send away, send away. Need to find it in our things. There we go. So some crime statistics for Utah. It was put in 2010, you say?
Yes.
If we turn your attention to the board, or to the cameras. So the yellow line is the national crime statistics, and then the blue line is Salt Lake City's crime statistics. Now right here at 2010, we got a sharp dip down.
Yes.
Almost as if someone was put in that doesn't prosecute crime, I would say. Because if they don't charge a crime, then there's no crime to report, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
And it's working so well that crime is above where it was before 2010. The crime rate, that is.
The violent crime rate.
So what's the differential? What about before that dip, right before that dip?
So 232 per 1,000, I presume that is.
232, okay. And then what about the peak?
2017 is the last thing they have on here, and it's 257.
Okay.
And I'm sure that only went down in 2020 when they were lighting police cars on fire.
Yeah.
In Salt Lake. I love that so much.
The most updated information is 2017?
On this one, yes.
Oh, man, that's a long time ago.
It is. But I just love that. I love it when hunches prove correct, which is almost every time.
It's almost as if you have principles that are based on truth, those tend to come true.
Yeah. You can follow said principles and you learn stuff.
As opposed to the left, who's fighting a war against reality.
Yeah. So one thing of note with this map here. So the report from the group, the whatever they're called, Law Enforcement Legal Defense Group, found that Soros-linked prosecutors oversee 20% of the U.S. population, including half of the country's most populous cities. But more than 40% of all murders occur under Soros prosecutors.
So what percentage of the population did you say?
20% of the population has
and
40%
of the murders?
of the country's murders.
Jeez, that's insane.
But it's working.
It's almost like
so
it's
well.
outsized and it's a garbage philosophy.
Almost. Exactly. It's almost exactly like that. Yeah.
If only someone could have predicted this would happen.
There's no way you could have known. There's no way.
There's no way.
No way you could have known that. Any of it. Let's see. There was something about... Oh, the hate has consequences thing. So, when this all started going down last week, I believe I told you guys, I've never been, in our little text message thing, I have never been so angry at a group in my life. And their support group.
Yeah.
Because right away, they try to cover the lead, bury the lead with reporting on the Nashville school shooting, and then they immediately try to blame the conservatives for it somehow. Because, well, if Tennessee didn't pass that law that prevented transgender stuff, it didn't prevent transgender stuff. It said you can't mutilate children.
This is the hate has consequences article that you're looking at?
It's all of the above, really. It's a mix between all of the articles.
No, like the rhetoric, the media rhetoric behind that makes me so unbelievably angry because they blame the right no matter what. Like if this happens by some nut job who claims to have like some kind of a white supremacy.
If only you weren't allowed to have guns on their school property.
They blame the right because I don't know why, because I believe the last time that happened, he wasn't even a Trump supporter.
The last time a shooter was The last time a shooter
was like white supremacists or whatever, but they still blame the right because they try to paint conservatives in that light.
Yeah, the
falsely, I might add.
The closest they got was the was it the South Carolina guy that shot up the school, the church?
Yeah, and
that's the
literally, if
closest they
something
got.
like that happens, they literally paint it as if like, see, conservatives inspire this sort of thing. And then when a trans person does it, they're like, see, conservatives drove this person to do it.
Do you know when that South Carolina one disappeared from the headlines?
Are you talking about the truck one that wasn't a shooting but got...
No, the church, the guy that shot up the black church. That was the...
Was that the one that was stopped by a citizen?
Probably.
Okay, just go on.
But that left the news headlines when the manifesto was released.
And what did it say in that?
Bunch of progressive crap.
That would do it.
Turns out progressives are racist and white supremacists. Who would have thought?
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole concept of white privilege is basically a white supremacist philosophy.
Inverse white supremacy. Yeah. Yes.
Well, no, they're literally saying that if you are white, you have certain privileges,
right? But instead
makes
of
you superior, therefore we need to take you down a peg. So, like, their conclusion is different.
Yes,
but
that's
the
why I say
philosophy
inverse.
is fundamentally the same.
Yes,
is that
it's
white
the same
people
philosophy,
are,
just a different outcome,
like better or whatever.
Yes.
But again, that's ultimately what the white privilege thing believe, like
what
says.
they believe. Yeah,
I like it's. I cannot believe the racism that is embedded in this anti-racist movement.
Yeah.
Yes, they are incredibly racist.
I love Chinese people too, but come on.
Oh my gosh. What is that from? Oh gosh.
That is
I'm
from...
laughing at the shock value of that, by the way.
That's from the Sham Wow guy.
Yeah, that's a Sham Wow commercial.
You get all these other things, they're made in China, but they don't work that well. I mean, I love Chinese people too, but come on.
Okay, so you took it out of context. It's
Oh
still
yes,
funny,
it's
though.
great. It's great.
Oh gosh.
Even in context, it's the same.
Well, this is not a mundane detail, Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, so remember, there's people still rotting in prison for the January 6th garbage that's falling apart more and more
where
every
we
day.
basically disproved the narrative, or rather Tucker Carlson disproved the narrative.
It's falling apart so much that they released the Buffalo Man early on the same day that they indicted Donald Trump.
If that wasn't bait, I don't know what is.
The January 6th thing? Or the
No. The fact they released the QAnon shaman the day they indicted Trump.
Uh-huh.
Like they're trying to incite stuff.
Yes.
Like they're trying their damnedest to get people to be violent in the streets.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's the most obvious thing in the world.
Yeah, that's why when I heard that
So what's the strategy here? Trying to get people to be violent?
They need someone to blame.
Yeah.
Because they know, like I mentioned with the McDonald's thing and the Kenya guy, president of Kenya, they know all of it is falling apart. Mm-hmm. We have the BRICS thing with China and Russia and Brazil and all these other countries.
Syria and Iran have now
joining together to create a new money power instead of the U.S. You have Saudi Arabia dropping the U.S. dollar to sell oil. They know ish is about to hit the fan, and it's going to hit hard, and they need somebody to blame.
So you think the strategy is that the dollar's going to collapse and they're going to blame January 6th?
No. They want something more concrete than January 6th. That's why they're indicting Trump. They're releasing the QAnon shaman. They're doing a bunch of stuff right now that's poking and prodding at the conservative base, trying to get them to react. They're trying to cause...
They're promoting a trans mental girl as a hero, knowing full damned well that she is not.
Yeah. And they're changing the narrative of the Tennessee thing to be... they're shifting it from the focus of the tragedy of the 6 Christian children dying to the tragedy of this misgendered trans woman who lashed out. Because they are trying to get the conservative base to react violently so that then they have cause. They have evidence that they can hold, because January 6th doesn't hold up.
January 6th didn't go as planned.
It didn't go as planned.
It does not hold up anymore.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't hold up. They know it doesn't hold up in the majority view. They understand that they have actually nothing to point to that says that the conservative base is actually this violent, awful thing that they keep trying to paint it as. There's no actual evidence of a widespread extremist, violent group in the conservative base. There's none.
Yep.
Yeah, that's been exposed too, as
so,
a complete lie from the FBI.
And so they are doing their damnedest. They're poking and prodding in every way they can conceive of, because they know in the next year there's going to be catastrophic failure in our economy.
Oh yeah, I don't
because they've set it up to have a catastrophic failure.
It's going to be an economic failure. It's going to be medical failure. It's going every single system of the U.S. Energy failure. It's all going to come crumbling down, and they have to pin it on somebody other than themselves.
Yep.
Yes, because if they can pin it on this violent extremist group that has
all Republicans, if Republicans didn't rise up like this, we wouldn't have this problem.
Then they can use it as an excuse to seize more power.
So basically the same thing they did as January 6th, because January 6th was such a nothing burger. They just took literally the entire thing was just showing footage of a crowd that was riled up, and they did trespass or whatever. And also showed pictures of the QAnon shaman looking smug, and then they called it worse than 9/11.
Have you ever heard the term color revolution?
Is that like a hijacked revolution that was like fake or something like that?
Essentially, color revolutions are they're a way to destabilize countries, and so it's
a lot of the people that are. The bureaucracy of the federal government have been involved with multiple color revolutions around the world.
So color revolutions are, in general sense, they're a movement that is anti-regime. Basically, they start them in countries that they want to destabilize in order to get the government there to collapse.
Sounds like they implement it just from propaganda.
Benghazi,
exactly.
Benghazi,
that's exactly
for
what
example.
They do. Yep, Benghazi is a perfect example of it. Our government and many other governments across the world have been secretly implementing color revolutions for decades to destabilize governments they don't like.
It's espionage.
It's espionage. Yeah, it is espionage. And when we talk about Soros and Soros talking about how one of his favorite pastimes is destabilizing governments, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He uses networks of communities, networks of organizations like Black Lives Matter, like
Color for Change.
That's
the main one.
Yeah. You know, stuff like the Che Guevara movement. He uses things like that and leaders that he positions and people that he sets in motion in these different countries to push forward color revolutions.
And he doesn't necessarily meet with those people. He just funds their stuff.
He just funds their stuff. He finds an extremist group, he funds them, gives them the resources and the resources. He gives them the knowledge that they need to pull these types of things off. And it's happened here in America. That's what these things are. Like the last 5 years, it's very obvious that there is something being pulled that is starting color revolutions all over our country.
Yeah.
And their end goal is to destabilize our government to the point where somebody has to seize control.
So what Soros used to do was he would dump money into into federal roles. So he would dump money into congressional candidates, into presidential candidates,
DAs.
and things like that. And that wasn't working as well as he wanted. Case in point, Donald Trump. So he switched aggressively to DAs because DAs have power immediately.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Whereas if you get a judge or a lawmaker or whatever, it's a very drawn out, long process for that to happen.
And so you have DAs positioned in large cities across the country. We have it up there on our screen right now. Every one of those dots
Is a major
represents
city. Yeah.
a large urban area, a very populous area. And every one of them is a Soros DA.
Yeah.
Which then he has these groups that he's funding that go out and start color revolutions. They have the Summer of Love all over the country. And what happens? Nothing. Because the Soros-controlled DAs are told to leave it alone.
Well, most of it happened at night, so they couldn't.
So they couldn't see. Yeah, exactly. They couldn't tell who was doing it because it happened at night.
Yeah.
And so this is, and then they use Soros-backed media to control the narrative.
And that pushes all of this destabilized stuff, pushes the sensible people to start being unsensible with their reactions.
And we pin it down on Soros because he's the most obvious one. He's the one that's easiest to trace.
There's
but I
more.
guarantee there's more than just him.
Oh, yeah.
He's not the only one. And the funniest thing about it is Soros is the one everybody focuses on because he's the one that's most visible.
He's the most public about it.
He's the most public about it because he just doesn't give a shit if people know, basically. But I would argue that probably the most dangerous ones are the ones that we have no idea that they're doing it.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because
I
they
would
could
agree.
be that friendly face that you see that's on the up and up, on the outside.
Imagine, if
But
you will.
behind the scenes, they're donating to all kinds of dumb things, and they're doing it through third-party stuff, so you can't tell that it's actually them donating.
Yeah, imagine, if you will, that someone like DeSantis is one of these actors.
Right.
And on one side, he's funding and helping along these different things, and on the other side, he's being a governor that people love because he's representing freedom and all these things.
Well, yeah, and he's also wielding political power.
And he's wielding political power
on behalf of the right.
Yes, exactly. He's wielding political power in a way that people love, but he's also fomenting things in different sections. And then suddenly he runs for president. And then he wins because of the things that he did in the public view, while the things that he did in the dark aren't noticed.
So what you're saying is like a theoretical situation where he's fighting for the right things to build a record, and then when he gets actual power, he does the opposite.
Just shuts it all down.
Yeah. Well, and not just that, but the things that he's doing in the dark on the one hand before his election then foment something that when he gets put in power, he then uses the opportunity to seize power and do everything that he actually wants to do. You know, and I'm not saying that DeSantis is actually that.
Okay.
It's
No.
He's an
still my
example
number
because
one guy.
he's the prominent one right now that is he's
Yeah,
a
so it's an easy
standout
analogy to
as
make.
these different things.
Sure,
it's
sure.
just an analogy.
Yeah.
I'm not for all the pro
There is
DeSantis people.
zero evidence
There's
to
zero
show.
evidence of that. I'm not actually
just
saying
a
that's a thing.
hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical because that's
You also said
that's-
someone like DeSantis.
that is the horror of the idea that there's somebody out there that we don't know about. That the fact that Soros is so public is hiding the other person that's out there doing these things.
Yeah, no. The reason
You
I
know?
find that plausible is because again, you said that it could happen because Soros could say something like, "Hey, become popular and palatable in this region, and then once you get power, be loyal to me." Like I could see
exactly.
that.
And
as
and
a
that
plausible
that
read
that
on
is
things.
why
And that's scary.
And that is exactly why I have a huge issue with one, voting party line, and two, with the idea that just because somebody is doing something you like now, that putting them in a position of greater power is always, like, without question, is always the right move. You know, and it's why somebody like DeSantis actually makes me really, really nervous.
He's too good.
Because and that's the thing, is like I'm sitting there looking at DeSantis and I'm like, I love everything about the things that he's doing. I love it. It's amazing.
What's wrong?
Exactly. Because I look at it on the one hand, I'm like, yes, I love the things he's doing in Florida. I love the fact that he's kicking out the Soros DAs. I love the fact that he's going after Disney. I love the fact that he's doing all of these things that are so anti-woke. I love it when he gets up and gives a speech because he's phenomenal. You know, I love the way he punches back and he doesn't punch down.
Yeah, sure.
You know, he fights in his weight class and he punches up, if anything. I love that. I hate the fact that he is funded by the party. Hate it. Absolutely despise it. And it is the one thing that I look at in DeSantis and I'm like, I'm not sure, you know, and like I've said multiple times before, the greatest thing that I dislike about DeSantis is the fact that he's a Republican.
Right.
as much as that rubs people the wrong way, that's what I mean when I say that, is it's the being beholden to a party.
Right.
Because we all know that the party politics are a cesspool.
So what's the alternative? Someone like Trump? Just
Yes.
an outsider?
Yep.
Okay.
That's the alternative.
I think the way that DeSantis could exonerate himself from that is if he comes out calling out people like McConnell and other absolute rhinos.
Yeah, that's fair.
And telling them, like, you guys have messed this up for way too long.
Yeah.
The only thing that kind of, for me, that kind of shields him from that criticism of being Republican is he's one of the founding members of
the Freedom Caucus.
The Freedom Caucus.
Yep. No, I agree with that.
Exactly. And that's why I like I said before, it's everything I said about it is hypothetical. He checks all the boxes. He's a phenomenal governor,
and he appears to be a
done
God-fearing man and all that stuff.
He appears to be all the good things. Yeah, I always take everything with a grain of salt. I always got to look at the other side of it.
No, I do agree with that because, like, we shouldn't be loyal to our politicians. The whole reason I thought the Trump presidency was just fantastic. Although I will say that the number one thing that Trump accomplished is he stopped the left from wielding power for a short time.
Yes.
You know,
that's
like,
the number one thing he accomplished.
That was his number one thing.
The left and the right.
No,
I'm not going to argue with that.
The number one thing he accomplished.
He was still terrible at spending.
He was. And his gun control bills were bullshit.
Yeah.
The number one thing he accomplished, and that this is what I mean when I say he broke them, is he forced them to take off the mask before they wanted to take off the mask.
He revealed the evil that was always
on both,
inside
like you said, both the Democrats and Republicans.
Republican and Democrat.
And
I agree
that's
with
why
that.
we needed somebody like him that, while working within the system, was not beholden to the system.
Yeah, he funded his own campaign.
That's not to say that Republicans running on the platform, there aren't several standouts. I mean, Matt Gaetz is a good standout. You have Paul is a good standout. Rand. Yes. I wanted to say Ron, so I just said Paul instead because I'm like, I know it's not Ron.
It's one of the
one of the two. Starts with an R. I got it. It's Rand. Rand Paul is an awesome standout.
Massey's
not bad either. You have Lee is a good standout, and though there's a lot of people in Utah that hate him, and I don't know why.
I don't know why either.
You know, there's
he's my hero.
There's so many. There's not so many, but there is a handful of really good standout representatives that while running on the platform have managed to maintain a certain degree of
even this last election
autonomy.
One thing I will say
but even then, most if not all of them have things that they vote party line on, and that bothers me.
Right.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say in Ron DeSantis' defense on being funded by the party, he doesn't really have an alternative. Did you know Ron DeSantis is actually quite poor? Like, he's like middle class.
Yeah.
Poor. I looked this up just now. Apparently, his net worth at the end of last year was $320,000.
Yeah.
So you cannot do anything with that on when we're talking like
it's almost as if he's
funds.
It's almost as if he's not using his position as leverage to make himself wealthy.
It's almost as if he's not a dirty politician.
Anyway,
which
so
again,
what I'm saying
he
is
checks
like
all the boxes.
He doesn't have a choice in some of these because that's just what the system is.
Especially if you're doing a national campaign.
That is definitely a pull for Donald Trump, as he was able to do much of his own campaigning.
And he's at the end of last year, he still owed $20,000 in student loan debt.
Yeah, that's true. Can you believe that? A presidential candidate still owing student loans. And he could have taken advantage of Biden's thing. He has a personal interest in that passing.
Here's a little fun factoid with that. So he was in the military. He was in the Navy.
He was in the Navy.
He's in the Navy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he still has student loans, even though
he was in the Navy.
Even though part of joining the armed forces is they'll pay off your student loans.
Yes, but
so did he do some? Did he like recruit?
It must be a private loan, maybe. I don't.
Yeah,
but
must be. So not only was he in the Navy, he was a lieutenant in the Navy who served as legal advisor for SEAL Team 1.
Yes. Not. Well, SEAL Team 6 is the one. SEAL Team 6 is the one they tell you about. There's other SEAL teams. Yeah, what all of this leads to that we've kind of been talking about, I just pulled this up. You ever heard of the Bubba effect?
Doesn't ring a bell.
So the Bubba effect apparently is something that the FBI and other intelligence agencies have kind of coined as a term. And it's where people get so upset at the system that they don't trust it anymore. So they end up taking the law into their own hands. And when someone breaks the law, the people protect them from the government. Let's take Trump's thing, for example. Let's say he actually did break some law.
Uh-huh.
And it was egregious of whatever it was. And the people decided, no, you're not taking Trump. And so they form whatever barrier necessary to keep law enforcement away from Donald Trump. That is the Bubba effect, where the people no longer allow the government to enforce the law because they don't trust anything the government's doing. Yes, we know Jim killed this guy, but we don't want you to touch Jim.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly the sort of stability that's happening right now. Like, again, with what we saw with COVID, and the government selectively enforcing the law like they're doing right now. Because, like, Trump being indicted, that is an actual threat to democracy.
Yeah.
Because they're jailing your political appointments on trumped-up charges.
Uh-huh.
At least it would be a threat to democracy if we were a democracy.
And here's where I'd put my democracy. If I had one.
If I had one.
Yeah, the triggers for the Bubba effect. People feel they've been pushed over the edge by an overbearing government or force. 2, someone responds with violence. 3, the rest of the people, even though they know the violence was wrong, feel the government is worse, so they support the person who lashed out.
Yeah.
It's their term for vigilantism, basically.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. This is exactly why, I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, but that's exactly why that this miscarriage of justice or selectively enforcing the law or going after your political opponents for political reasons, just like that, what they're doing with Trump is so terrifying for the future of the country, is because the justice system is supposed to relieve the burden of basically seeking out your own justice from the people.
Right.
But if the justice system fails to carry out justice, then the people will have no choice but to take justice into their own hands. And that has very terrible consequences.
Yes. Yep.
And I would say that it is the fault of the judges and the officials that are supposed to carry out justice and are choosing not to, of why this happened, because it's the most predictable thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so, like, two things can be true at once. You can say that vigilantism has very terrible consequences, but also it's what happens when you don't uphold justice.
Yeah. Kind of like Batman.
Yeah, well, it's like that Dollar Tree employee that shot that shoplifter a couple weeks ago.
Oh no, better
Or
yet,
last week.
I got a better one for you. Where this Bragg guy is, there is a parking garage attendant that stopped a thief, and he was charged for murder.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
By the DA that's currently prosecuting Trump.
No, it was a security guard, right?
Yeah, security.
Yeah, I heard about this, and it was dirt on the
Here's what they charged him for. They charged him
possession of a weapon.
No,
sorry,
charged him for murder and possession of an illegal firearm, which was the thief's firearm.
Oh, that is not funny. I'm just like.
They dropped the charges after they handcuffed him to the hospital bed because he got beat up by the thief. But that kind of crap is what leads people to do what we've been talking about.
Yeah, so according to this...
Unbelievable.
Thank you, Archer.
According to this, is it district attorney or attorney general? What's his title again?
Bragg?
Alvin Bragg.
Yeah, district attorney.
District attorney, yeah.
District attorney, okay. Yeah, according to this district attorney, the crimes that do matter is self-defense. If you defend yourself against a criminal that is trying to kill you, then that's the sort of crime that he cares about. Or if you're Trump, he apparently campaigned on getting Donald Trump.
Yes. This isn't political at all. Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
I seem to recall that the whole basis of Trump's first impeachment was because they alleged that Trump had the intention to get Joe Biden by investigating the Ukraine corruption or whatever. And that was just alleged. He didn't even say it, but this person said it, and now he's carrying it out on trumped up charges, and now no one cares. Like the Democrats are like, yes, let's continue doing this. This is good prosecution.
This is the correct course to take. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking at the article that kind of talks about Bragg's record. Let's see here. Apparently, felony convictions are down almost 30%, and convicted felons going to prison were down 34%. So, what do you think that the number of felons went down by 34% under Bragg, or the prosecution of felons went down 34% under Bragg?
Yeah, see, if you report zero crime, then it's going to show that there is zero crime in your city.
Yeah, and apparently last year, oh my gosh, these numbers are insane for a year-over-year change. Last year, 29% of suspects charged with misdemeanors were convicted, compared to 53% in 2019. And let's see. And 522 suspects convicted of misdemeanors were sentenced to prison, as opposed to more than 2,400 sentenced to prison time with misdemeanor convictions in 2019. Like these are amazing numbers. He's just not prosecuting crime. So
and then,
the type of crime he is interested in prosecuting are political stunts like prosecuting Trump and self-defense, apparently.
And I'm sure there's absolutely no racial profiling that he's doing with dropping charges.
No, of course not.
In 2022, Bragg's office refused to prosecute more than 1,100 felony cases in Manhattan. This represents a 35% increase in felony cases that the district attorney's office has declined to prosecute compared to 2019, when prosecutors declined to prosecute fewer than 830 felony cases. Even if felony cases where Bragg's office did prosecute suspects, only about half were convicted, and just 1,210 suspects convicted received a prison sentence.
So in other words, this guy doesn't prosecute crime unless Trump is involved. Then he tries to find a target and find a crime to fit the person he wants to convict.
Just looking at these numbers, New York is a hot mess. Because So 2022, he didn't prosecute over 1,100 felony cases. The ones that he did prosecute, about half, 1,210. So there was 3,600 felony cases last year in New York that they put on record in just his district in Manhattan. To get out of New York. Holy crap. If you are still there for whatever godforsaken reason. My family lives here. Not for long at this rate.
Lives is a loose term.
Right? They can also live somewhere else, or they can probably not live in New York. You know, it's, you know, up to you. Good night. And it's tons of videos on here of, not tons of videos, but a couple of videos of people just whacking other people in the back of the head with bats. And
I also just want to say how the backlash against New York governance has been. So as you know, the governor's race did go to a Democrat in 2022 recently, but the margins are actually pretty remarkable. The governor's race in 2022, 52.9%. The governor, or the Democrat, won 52.9% to 47.1%. That's about a 5% spread. Closer to 6%. Whereas, as opposed to 2018, it was 59.6% to 36.2%. So that's an unbelievable change. Anyway, I think that's just anecdotal about how the population is pissed off.
In November, he threw out almost 200 convictions for cases linked to NYPD misconduct. And then last year, his office charged 2 Mexican drug cartel smugglers with misdemeanors after they were found with $1.2 million worth of crystal meth. The charges meant that both suspects were freed from jail without bail. Good luck, New York. Good freaking luck. Jeez. I'm not biased at all. Well, that was riveting. So, since Joe Biden said transgender Americans shape our nation's soul, it's probably the truest thing he said in his presidency as of today's culture. I decided we need to look into the soul of America.
Yeah, let's look into that.
Maybe this will be uplifting. If not, then I don't know what to tell you. This is all we got left is going into this. So, start off first and foremostly. Why won't you open? Whoops.
So before we get into that, are you going to define what you think the soul of America is?
I'm going to use all of this stuff to define the soul of America.
All right. Well, let's get into it then.
As far as a person that embodies the soul of America, looking through America's history, I would say George Washington embodies the soul of America.
Amen to that.
Get these other ones open real quick. Was he a perfect man? No, not by any means. Did he do things I disagree with? Probably.
Well, there was only one perfect man, so.
Yes. But George Washington was so committed to his principles and his values and everything that even the King of England, when he learned that George Washington would be stepping down from the presidency, said if he does that, he will be the greatest man to ever walk this earth.
The King of England said that?
Yes.
Oh, I never heard that.
After he got his butt handed to him by this man.
Wow.
Because George Washington had every right to take complete control. as far as traditional standards are concerned. But he did not. So this song, America's Son by Tom Douglas, I feel embodies the spirit of George Washington. If I could just hit the play button. And here we go.
His portrait fades and his memory is gone. Earthquake cracked his tower of stone. His voice still echoes, charge on, charge on. God bless America with her son, George Washington. Taxes enslaved the colonies. Men who lived and died to be free. Fought the iron fist of tyranny with liberty. God blessed America with her son, George Washington. No surrender and no retreat. First in war and first in peace. Father, soldier, and a citizen, gave his soul to God and his heart to his countrymen. Bullets flew from out of sight. Heaven chose to spare his life as soldiers bled and horses fell. Led his men through the gates of hell, from Valley Forge to Yorktown roar. Found a country and won the war. Amen, amen. No surrender and no retreat. First in war and first in peace. Father and a soldier and a citizen, gave his soul to God and his heart to his countrymen. When the war was finally won, glory came to Washington. Refused the crown and took a plow. So help me God was his vow. From Lady Liberty to the California sun, we keep looking for another one. We'll find our hope back where we started from. May God bless America with another George Washington. And give your soul to God and your heart to your countrymen.
There you go. So, the picture that's used for that song is the Prayer at Valley Forge, one of the depictions of it. Mm-hmm. Keith, do you know where that comes from? How we know about the Prayer at Valley Forge?
No, I have no idea.
We know about the Prayer at Valley Forge because the guy that owned the property around Valley Forge, Isaac Potts was his name, and he was a loyalist. And he decided to go out.
That means he was on Britain's side?
Yes, he was on the king's side. He decided to go out and see what these rebel rousers were up to, because he heard that the great General Washington was there with them. And he heads out there and he finds Washington walking away from the camp. And He follows him to see where he's going, what he's doing. And then he sees him get down on his knees and start offering up a prayer to God. He records it in his journal, or I think his wife recorded it in her journal. But he returns home to his wife, and the first thing he says to her is, "We're on the wrong side." And he recounted.
It was just that, huh?
Yep.
That's what made him change his mind.
That's what
he
made him
saw
change his
George
mind.
Washington praying, and that made him change his mind. That's incredible.
So that's how we know about the prayer at Valley Forge, is because of a man who was against the revolution and then turned in favor of the revolution. Prayer at Valley Forge also significant because we were losing every single battle until Valley Forge, and then we started winning. Almost as if the prayer meant something.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as if. So I had a handful more stuff to go through, but apparently Google had an issue with the Wall Builders website. They tried to give us a couple of strikes because of it. I refuted the strikes, and they let us have it. So, okay, you're right. But yeah, something happened to their site after they posted some quote-unquote anti-trans articles. And so now they're building a new website. So I don't have everything I wanted to have, but I do have some things.
All right.
So one thing that I believe is desperately needed to repair our country and bring it back to the glory that it once was is God.
Amen to that.
We've pointed it out multiple times before, and I think it's worth pointing out again. It's an article posted via Wall Builders. American history today has become a dreary academic subject, yet most who are bored by American history view Bible history quite differently. They love the stories of David and Goliath, Daniel and Lion's Den, and Peter walking on the water. So it's not that people don't enjoy history, it's just that they don't respond favorably to the way American history is currently being taught. True. Because how many times going through middle school, high school, was it basically memorize the names, memorize the dates,
Yep.
pass the test, forget it all?
Yep.
One reason Bible history is interesting and American history is not is that the Bible, as well as American education during the first 3 centuries, utilizes biographical history, that is, presents history through the eyes and life experiences of those involved, rather than through the recitation of a string of dates and places. It is the difference between reading the stories in guideposts and the numbers in a phone book. Yes.
I'm not arguing with you so far. No, I was the worst history student. I mean, my grades were fine or whatever.
You passed the test.
Well, to get the grade, but
Right.
I had AP US History, which was a college course, and you need to get at least a 3 on the AP test in order to get any college credit.
Mm-hmm.
I got a 1.
Good.
So the in-class tests I did fine on, like my grades in the class were fine, but when it actually came to taking the test, I failed miserably. So yeah, retention.
Yeah. So for example, just off the top of my head, so George Washington fought for the British during the French and Indian War, because that was before the Revolution. Have you ever heard the story of how he survived the French and Indian War? Because we all heard the
That
story.
was prior to the Revolution, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
We all heard the story of him chopping down a cherry tree, and I cannot tell a
Which
lie.
I believe that is not true. and
Absolutely
it was a lie.
false. Yes. And we know that he had wooden teeth. That's about it. Whereas if you heard this story, George Washington was the last commanding officer of British forces in engagement with the French and Indians. This is significant because during that time period, if there were no commanding officers, there was no battle happening because the infantry were in retreat. because there was no one to command them and dictate when to fire and when not to fire.
Sure.
The Indians knew this, and they didn't care about standard battle practices of don't shoot the officers. That's not good battle practice. The Indians knew that if they killed all the officers, they don't have to fight anymore. Laziness is the spawn of ingenuity.
Not going to argue with that. It's how we got technology.
So Washington was the last commanding officer still standing because the rest had been shot by the Indians. And we know this story because of one of the Indians, the Native Americans, recounted this story when he met George Washington in person later on in life. George Washington noted after the battle in a letter to his wife that he looked down at his coat and there were holes all in it, but he wasn't shot.
Well, what?
He had bullet holes in his coat. He was on a horse riding back and forth on the front lines, rallying his men. And he wasn't shot, but he had bullet holes in his coat, meaning that he was shot at.
But it didn't actually hit him somehow.
A Native American who was a sharpshooter recalled his story.
Recounted his story.
Thank you.
Didn't recant it.
He didn't
take it back.
Is
that where they got the term Indian giver?
Gosh, he said it. Oh. I am recusing myself from
You're
this.
just an asshole.
You're accusing yourself or recanting yourself?
Yes.
Yes.
I couldn't resist. I don't
Splendid.
apologize. I
apologize
I
for
don't care.
nothing. So he recounted his story to Washington, telling him that no matter how many times I aimed my rifle at you, my musket at you, it would not fire. I would point it at something else or someone else, and it would fire. I would reload it, point it at you again, and it would not fire. And he tells him that some great spirit must have been protecting you that day. Huh.
Well, the theological conclusions I can draw from that is either divine intervention or we're living in a simulation.
Yes. But if I had heard that story in history class,
I would have remembered that one.
I would have remembered a lot more about George Washington. Well, what other things did he go through? The article goes on. Looking at history the way God presents it is exciting and informative, and in numerous verses, God even commends its study. Remember the former things of old, for I am God, from Isaiah, and call to remembrance the former days, Hebrews. But why would God want us to know history? The Apostle Paul answers that question in 1 Corinthians 10:1. 1 Corinthians. All these things happened unto them for example, and they are written for our admonition. See also Romans 15:4. Those things written aforetime were written for our learning. In short, we learn from history, and what we learn affects our behavior. So what did the founders say? American leaders long understood this biblical truth. For example, Thomas Jefferson noted, history, by apprising them, the students of the past, will enable them to judge of the future. And what can be learned by being apprised of the past? According to Benjamin Franklin, history will afford frequent opportunities to showing the necessity of a public religion from its usefulness to the public, the advantage of a religious character among private persons, the mischiefs of superstition, and the excellency of the Christian religion above all others, ancient or modern. Benjamin Franklin, the atheist, agnostic. Franklin understood that history, when accurately presented, would demonstrate the need for Christianity because of both the societal and individual benefits it produces. In fact, the presenting of an uncensored and unrevised history actually causes a recognition of the hands of God. For in the words of the great statesman Daniel Webster, history is God's providence in human affairs. The father of education and the dictionary. Today, however, history is presented in such an edited, revised, and politically correct manner that God's hand is rarely visible. which explains why we never heard the story of Washington not getting hit by any bullets in battle. And even the historic role of famous godly leaders in education, business, politics, and the military is now virtually unacknowledged. And an obvious example of secularization of history occurs each year around the 4th of July. Americans are taught that taxation without representation was the reason America separated from Great Britain. Yet taxation without representation was only one reason, number 17, out of the 27 reasons given in the Declaration of Independence. It was not even in the top half, yet it's all that most ever hear. Never mentioned today are the numerous grievances condemning judicial activism, or those addressing moral or religious or other issues. What religious issues? In 1762, the king vetoed the charter for America's first missionary society. He also suppressed other religious freedoms and even prevented Americans from printing an English-language Bible. How did they respond, the Americans? They took action, and almost unknown today is the fact that the Declaration signers such as Samuel Adams and Charles Carroll cited religious freedom as the reasons they became involved in the American Revolution. Significantly, even though Thomas Jefferson and Ben Franklin, two of the least religious signers, are typically the only signers studied today, almost half of the signers of the Declaration, 24 of 56, held what today would be considered seminary or Bible scholar degrees. Clearly, for many founders, religious issues were an important motivation behind their separation from Great Britain, but that motivation is largely ignored today. It's a great read for the rest of it as well. As far as...
It's a great article.
Yes.
So what is this website? Wall Builders?
Wallbuilders.com.
What is it?
So if you go to Wikipedia, you will find, if you type in David Barton and look at Wikipedia, you'll find that he's a pseudo-Christian historian, meaning that he teaches false Christian history to promote his thing.
Sure, I would see why the world would see it that way.
Yeah, because if they actually said that he teaches actual history, then they'd have to acknowledge that what he's saying is correct. And since it's Wikipedia, you can't trust it at all. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I actually believe that the main source used in academic... I'll have to look this up to verify this, but I believe the main source for it's used in American history textbooks on why the founders were not Christian, is basically pseudo-history, where they cite themselves as the source for why the founders were not Christian.
It's a couple of professors that got together and said, this is the history of America, and no, we're not providing sources.
Yeah, and that was the basis of the most recent...
because we said
textbooks.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Wall Builders website, when it's actually working and not blocked by... I'm almost certain Google's blocking it. I'm willing to bet that's why it's
it wouldn't surprise me.
But the Wall Builders website, when they do put things here, they're all sourced. You can click on the link they have, or you go to the bottom of the article and it has all the footnotes, all the sources. And it's the long source, meaning you can go to the Library of Congress, type in that source, and you pulls up
the thing. That's another thing about history is what I've noticed about the 1619 Project, the defamation of Columbus, as well as various religious histories, is creating a narrative. Reinterpreting a narrative from history is the easiest thing to do. Mm-hmm. Anyone can cherry pick historical records to create a narrative and declare it thusly. And depending on the popularity of it, it will, penetrate the public consciousness. And I think Columbus Day is a good example of that.
To be clear, the history behind the phrase Indian giver isn't misconstrued at all. It actually is terrible. You probably shouldn't use it. Just to throw that out there.
All right.
Probably should use it.
It was a miscommunication between the settlers and the natives. The natives had a tradition of, if somebody needed something like a tool or something like that, you could take the tool, or it could be gifted to you, and it was expected back at some point. It was like
borrowed.
A loan. It was borrowed. But they also had a tradition of gifting somebody something when they were in good favor with them. So say, you know, they have somebody from another tribe that they were on good terms with. They would give them a gift of kinship.
Uh-huh.
And then if that person ever fell out of favor with them, they would go back and take the gift back.
Hey, that Furby I gave you when you were 10 years old.
I don't like you anymore, so I want that back.
I want that back.
Yeah. It was to avoid being guilty by association because that person had a gift saying from you saying that you were
in favor.
Interesting.
Hey, he killed this guy with an axe that you gifted to him.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah. Essentially. That was the idea behind it. And the settlers in America just never quite got on the same page with that,
which is why we have New York.
And in fact, when the Native Americans would bring things that they borrowed back, they would get arrested for stealing.
All right, well,
on something. But anyway, that's where the phrase came from.
Well,
it's weird.
Anyway, Mike,
but
I'm glad you were able to atone for using that remark.
No, I still don't care. I still think it's a funny phrase.
All right,
I just
moving
thought I would
forward,
give some history to it.
We can bury the hatchet and move forward. Dig it.
Is that a hatchet that was gifted to you, or somebody might want that back later, Keith? You shouldn't bury other people's hatchets.
Indian gift barrier.
Indian gift barrier. Oh, that's terrible.
This episode's
and funny.
This episode's out of context quote is brought to you by Pfizer.
The ability to speak does not make
That's 2 Jar Jar quotes in one episode.
Yes. For those of you keeping score at home.
I found something interesting a minute ago, by the way. It was posted like in the middle of our episode.
Besides the gift giver?
Besides the gift giver, yes. Yes, I found... So, you know who James O'Keefe is, right?
Yeah, he's the founder of the...
I saw this.
I believe it's a conservative website, yes?
Yeah. So he's the founder of Project Veritas.
And was recently kicked out.
Was recently kicked out of Project Veritas. And so he has started his own thing that he posts on his private sites.
It's O'Keefe Media Group.
Yes.
OMG.
He has now created OMG. And he uses the hashtag OMG when he posts things to it. So he went undercover at the Trump
clever.
indictment and was talking to reporters.
And?
I shared the link to you.
All right, let's check it out.
It's 3 minutes. At least I shared it to the Naked Apple. I don't know if I shared it to one that you're in.
No problem. Trevor can pull it up.
Trevor can pull it up.
Take a sidestep from... Sorry, God, you're on hold for a second.
There's more.
There's a little bit more. I didn't want to end the episode by segueing back out into this, so I figured I would just interrupt.
Okay, that's a better strategy.
That's fair.
And then we can end on a God note at the end.
You decided to Kanye West this.
I did.
I'm going to let you finish.
You're so handy with that soundboard. I'm impressed.
I'm going to let you finish, but first I got to say, yeah. All right. How do people not know who James O'Keefe is? I mean, I
don't know.
In the media world,
if you are any kind of reporter, that should be the first thing. If you see him, shut up.
You should have a top 10 most wanted corkboard that has his face on it.
I want to see.
Want to see. Keith's getting impatient.
I am.
You're a photographer? Yeah. For the Times? Yeah.
You can finally take this guy down with this?
It's not gonna be enough.
Not gonna be enough. It seems like he gets away with everything.
He certainly
does, man. You know, it's crazy. It does. It's crazy. It's with everything. Whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Whatever it takes. I mean, you know, it's a good start, babe. I mean, you guys are doing your part too. I know you're good.
They said no mugshot and most likely no handcuffs.
Oh.
I mean, fingerprints, yes, but no mugshot.
Are you guys with like local TV or something?
Are you a Trump supporter? Okay, so then I can say I'm with CNN.
It gets better.
I appreciate the good work you guys do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
I know. You know, James. Hi. OMG went down to the New York City courthouse today for the Trump arraignment to find out what was really going on. And what we first saw were hundreds of journalists and news people everywhere. We spoke to them to find out what they really thought. As you watch us do this, note that you can easily do this at any event where journalists gather.
Quote
simply by
unquote
recording
journalists.
audio on your phone and having a friend help from afar. I've never seen so many journalists before in my life.
It's a very big
Journalist's
story.
trademark.
Former president being charged today, criminally charged.
Are they going to get him finally?
I don't know. I guess we'll wait and see.
They're just going to help him like all the other things help him.
Do the one in Georgia.
Oh. Georgia. Well, that Georgia seems like it would be better at taking him down than this.
Yeah, it's more interesting than Stormy Daniels, but I'll take this.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
What do you mean we'll take it? Like it's whatever reason he is in treason is good for me. You guys reporters? I'm not. No, we're cameramen. Oh, okay, cool. Who do you work for? ABC. ABC? Cool.
It depends how much he keeps slipping up, you know?
Whatever it takes, right?
Hopefully he doesn't. Hopefully he doesn't get the nominee. He just goes away.
That would be great. I would love to see
He would
that.
go away if you stopped covering.
Either one.
He seems like he gets away with everything, you know?
Yeah, he'll buy his way out.
He'll buy his way out. OMG also spoke to a district attorney in the same courthouse as Alvin Bragg to find out what her thoughts were on the decision for Bragg to indict Trump.
Sylvia Wertheimer?
Wertheimer. I'm in the appeals division.
Oh, so you're a big-time DA. You're amazing.
I'm not a big time. I'm a little low-level DA. But I was surprised to hear that there's nothing in the Constitution that prevents anybody who's even been convicted of a felony from running for president.
Well, maybe we should change that.
We should change a lot of it.
Can we change that?
No. Well, I mean, we can't do anything in this country. We can't get rid of guns.
That went up my nose.
We can't get rid of guns.
We got to do that.
I mean, we don't see. We see the country seems to be dysfunctional. I don't understand that people still think he won the election. I mean, really,
It's ridiculous, right?
it's ridiculous.
So do you think that Alvin Bragg obviously is just dealing with this and trying to make sure that...
No, I know he thinks that the charges are justified.
Yeah, you don't know the charges yet?
No, but he's speculating.
I've never seen so many journalists in my life.
I know.
She's DA and she doesn't know the charges.
Like, hi.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And you're welcome. Well, that's fun. He's just having the time of his life now that he's not bogged down by a board of directors.
Right. I just do whatever I want.
Uh-huh.
I have a permit for that. It's just a paper that says I do what I want.
Do what I want.
Emotional damage.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's see. So, turning to God. Turning back to
God.
Segue.
Which is the perfect metaphor because that's exactly what we need to do.
It's 100%. 100%. Oh, Keith, if you go to that other link I have, the heritage.org, the top picture on there is another rendition of
the
George
Washington's prayer.
Yeah. It was
his horse is a little further away in that picture.
A little further away. Apparently, it was Ronald Reagan's favorite image of George Washington.
Also has a really weirdly placed eye. Anyway.
Yeah. But in that picture, you can see in the background.
Are you going to pull it up on the screen?
On the left
there?
side, if I can. If it'll do the thing for me. Gosh, dang it.
I mean, if we're going to have a video version, we might have the images.
Potato.
That's right.
That's
the
right.
American way of saying potato.
Because it's all part of the plan.
There it is. There it is. So that one. And it's kind of obscure because Lee Edwards is trying to take up all the room there. But right here, that's Isaac Potts.
I spy.
Yeah. I spy someone that tried to be a spy.
So the real question is, where's Waldo?
I believe he's right.
See in the fire there in the background?
That little hat right there, that head. That's it.
There it is.
Yep.
Found him.
Found him.
You can tell because of the stripes.
It's a dead giveaway every time.
Anyway.
So in the past, America has turned to God when things got difficult and hard. One that it does not show here in this list is actually from one Benjamin Franklin, who, when the signers could not agree on what to do for a constitution, they couldn't agree on anything. Ben Franklin stood up and said, "How many times have we met in this room and seen the hand of God direct us on what to do? And we always started those things with a prayer from a pastor." And he motioned that they convene for a time to talk to each other outside of the room and to take time to fast and pray and then come back together with an opening prayer from a local pastor, which they did. And they immediately drafted the Constitution right after that. And every time Congress gets together now to open Congress, it starts with a prayer. Thanks to Benjamin Franklin suggesting as much.
It does? Even now?
Yep.
You're kidding me.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Every time a new Congress is assembled, it is assembled with a prayer.
Or when you say a new Congress, are you saying
so it's right now it's the 118th Congress or whatever.
So just once.
At least once.
I see.
Yeah.
So
once every 2 years.
Then the question is, how has the Hall of Congress not burned down from the spontaneous combustion of some of the Congress people?
Nancy Pelosi and others.
During the prayer.
Well, it's because now the prayers that they give are like the one with...
Thanks, Satan.
It's subtle, actually.
Yeah.
That's how they go now.
Yeah, the one that presided over Joe Biden, his swearing in ceremony thing, gave a prayer for Congress at the time, and it was all about transgender.
Wait, is that the one? Was that the prayer that ended with "Amen" and "A woman"?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. How it started, how it's going.
You know, I never thought that the Ronald Reagan quote about being one generation away would really go as fast
as one generation.
As I mean, it's
Turns
like
out
half a generation.
Turns out he was wrong.
Well, no, he was not wrong. He was not wrong.
All of 4 years.
Because what he said was, freedom is never more than one generation away.
Dang it, he was right
from
at the
extinction.
Reagan!
Yeah, his full quote, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, I remembered where I left off before God was interrupted.
A blessing. A blessing from the Lord. God be praised.
I'm not even mad. I'm actually impressed.
I knew that button would be useful tonight.
Thanksgiving. Why do we celebrate Thanksgiving, Keith?
To celebrate the true meaning of Thanksgiving, which is that socialism is terrible and everyone should pull their own weight.
All right, now what do you really think? Yeah.
Oh, I was expecting a sound effect there.
Nope. I'm preparing for later.
Yes.
Keep going.
What do you really think, though? I'm quizzing the AP history student here.
Oh, they got a 1. Well, thank you for that.
Yes.
We celebrate the, I guess, coming together of two different cultures and helping each other out to get basically have a sustainable civilization. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
That's a wonderful answer. And it's fine for today's world.
Thank you. I'm going to take... No, I know what sound effect you're going to use.
However...
Don't do it.
Wrong.
I'm sorry. You said don't do it, so I had to do it.
I knew that
Shrek,
was
tag
coming.
me, tag me.
Tag me, tag. I'm
right.
waiting.
I'm just going to go with I don't know next time.
That's the safe answer.
You were actually pretty close the first time.
So, the first...
That is what I really think. The first answer.
The first answer is what I really think.
The first official Thanksgiving for the United States was brought to you by George Washington. Before there was a holiday called Thanksgiving.
Which was brought to us by Abraham Lincoln, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Dang it.
No. Although he did have a Thanksgiving proclamation. Yes. The first time America celebrated Thanksgiving was the year 1789, where George Washington said, "Whereas it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, and humbly to implore his protection and favor. Whereas both houses of Congress have, by their joint committee, requested me to, quote, recommend to the people of the United States a day of public thanksgiving and prayer to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many signal favors of Almighty God, especially by affording them an opportunity peaceably to establish a form of government for their safety and happiness," end quote. That is why we celebrate Thanksgiving.
Oh.
For the foundation of America.
Because a bunch of God-fearing people gave the middle finger to socialism.
I like it.
Yeah. 100%. Because the Pilgrims tried it.
Yeah.
And they almost died.
Yeah.
Which is why they had Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because the Indians recognized they made stupid decisions and were going to die, so they brought them a bunch of food.
Uh-huh.
So you were partially right, Keith, on your first answer.
Thank you.
That's what I said. I gave it to him for the first answer.
Yes. Congratulations. You got half a point.
It was the second answer that earned the song.
But the reason why your second answer is the popular answer is because, well, if you believe that wholeheartedly, then when someone comes around with something like, say, I don't know, the 1619 Project, you can believe it.
Yep.
Because if you actually know why we celebrate Thanksgiving, you'll understand that it's celebrating the Pilgrims trying to establish a form of government for their safety and happiness so they could acknowledge the signal favors of Almighty God.
Oh, that was the ones in Jamestown, right? Because the 1619
was Jamestown. Yes.
James, yeah. So it was
Pilgrims
the settlers in Jamestown that were, so good with the Native Americans that.
Oh yeah, Pocahontas is wrong.
Oh,
yeah.
So it wasn't Jamestown;
No.
it was Plymouth.
Plymouth
that actually came up.
Yes,
with
where you can see Plymouth Rock
Thanksgiving.
that, thanks to global warming, is still at the exact same depth
Spot
that it was back then. Huh.
It's almost as if all of the narratives are like wrong or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Washington went on. He recommends and assigns Thursday, the 26th day of November, next to be devoted by the people of these states to the service of that great and glorious being who is the
beneficiary?
Beneficent. Gosh. I need a hug.
I'm not reading where you're reading, so I can't.
Yes.
Can't tell you what the word is.
Beneficent.
Beneficent.
Author of all the good that was, that is, or that will be, that we may then all unite in rendering unto him our sincere and humble thanks for his kind care and protection of the people of this country previous to their becoming a nation, for the signal and manifold mercies and the favorable interpositions of his providence, which we experienced in the course and conclusion of the late war, for the great degree of tranquility, union, and plenty which we have since enjoyed, for the peaceable and rational manner in which we have been enabled to establish constitutions of government for our safety and happiness, and particularly the national one now lately instituted, for the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge, and in general for all the great and various favors which he hath been pleased to confer upon us. And also that we may unite in most humbly offering our prayers and supplications to the great Lord and ruler of nations, and beseech him to pardon our national and other transgressions. To enable us all, whether in public or private stations, to perform our several and relative duties properly and punctually, to render our national government a blessing to all the people. Oh, wouldn't that be nice? By constantly being a government of wise, just, and constitutional laws, discreetly and faithfully executed and obeyed. To protect and guide all sovereigns and nations, especially such as have shown kindness to us, and to bless them with good government, peace, and concord. To promote the knowledge and practice of true religion and virtue, and the increase of science among them and us, and generally to grant unto all mankind such a degree of temporal prosperity as he alone knows to be best. Done. George Washington. That is part of why George Washington is the greatest man we've ever had to lead this country.
I'm a fan.
I'm a fan. Anywho, whenever America has found itself in a sticky situation, her leaders have turned to God, and coincidentally, I'm sure, things turned in our favor. Abraham Lincoln turned to God time and again. His Emancipation Proclamation, for example, ends with the words, "And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God." What happened after the Emancipation Proclamation? The Union proceeded to win every single battle except one. In War and Peace, our presidents have called upon the Almighty, as did Franklin D. Roosevelt in his address to Congress asking for a declaration of war against Japan after the infamous attack on Pearl Harbor. Quote, "With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God." In announcing that D-Day had arrived and the invasion of France was underway, Roosevelt closed his national radio address with a heartfelt prayer that conceded the certain cost of the operation. "Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom." I hate that I 100% believe Joe Biden would never say anything like that.
No, not even a little bit.
Mike and I talked about this recently. One of the most famous invocations of World War II was the weather prayer requested by General George Patton, eager to advance against the Germans in the critical Battle of the Bulge, but blocked by unrelenting winter weather.
James O'Neill.
Reverend James O'Neill prayed, "Almighty and most merciful Father." I should make a little correction here. James O'Neill wrote this prayer that was distributed to all of Patton's soldiers.
Yes.
So they could all say the prayer at the same time.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Almighty and most merciful Father, we humbly beseech thee. Wait, no, I'm not going Southern. Of thy great goodness to restrain these immoderate rains with which we have had to contend. Grant us fair weather for battle. Graciously hearken to us as soldiers who call upon thee, that armed with thy power we may advance from victory to victory, and crush the oppression and wickedness of our enemies and establish thy justice among men and nations.
Went back to Southern.
I did go back to Southern.
Just not Baptist.
Spent too much time in Georgia.
Yeah.
It's probably the way he sounded when he read it, too.
And here's another thing I hate. I hate that I 100% believe that General Milley would never try to do something like this.
Yeah, no, not even a little bit.
Only because he abandoned our soldiers. Just that reason alone. It's one small, minor reason. After that prayer, the snow stopped, the skies cleared, and hell was unleashed from Patton's army to defeat the Bulge.
And that reading is exactly why I won the Red Light Fever Award in our theater class.
You had to bring that up.
Did you catch the number of accents I went through during that reading?
Yes, you went through several.
Red Light Fever.
Well,
that's how it goes.
I got a lead in the play in senior year, so.
I wrote a play once.
So did I.
Play once.
Boom.
Yes, it was part of class.
I watched a play.
I watched a play. So there.
A National Day of Prayer was first proposed by the Second Continental Congress in 1775, again by Lincoln in 1863, and then made a national tradition in 1988 by President Ronald Reagan. Who designated the first Thursday of May as a National Day of Prayer. Reagan recognized God's enduring presence in our nation's history and made no secret of it. In May of 1982, for example, the 40th president proclaimed, through the storms of revolution, civil war, and the Great World Wars, as well as during times of disillusionment and disarray, the nation has turned to God in prayer for deliverance. We thank him for answering our call, for surely he has. In the wake of the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon, President George W. Bush spoke from the Oval Office and asked the nation to pray for the victims. I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security have been threatened, and I pray they will be comforted by a power greater than any of us, spoken through the ages in Psalm 23, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me.
There was no call like that given when, 9/11 2.0 happened.
Nope.
Mostly because they knew it wasn't nearly as bad, even though they call it 9/11 2.0 for whatever reason.
Yep.
Freaking whack job.
We're talking about January 6th here?
Yes.
Yeah. No, didn't they say that it's the worst thing that's happened since the Civil War?
That's
literally
yes.
the position of the White House.
Yeah. Neither has a thing like that occurred after the botched Afghan withdrawal, where 13 soldiers were blown up by a bomb that could have been stopped by a soldier that was at the gate and saw the bomb and said, hey, this guy looks like the guy we've been looking for that's bomb threat. And he was told, do not engage. And then the bomb went off.
When was this?
Afghanistan withdrawal.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Donald Trump also proclaimed March 14th to be National Day of Prayer during the coronavirus stuff, reminding us that no problem is too big for God to handle. As one nation under God, we are greater than the hardships we face, and through prayers and acts of compassion and love, we will rise to this challenge and emerge stronger and more united than ever before.
Donald Trump
you
said
didn't
that?
do the Trump voice.
As one nation under God, we are greater than the hardships we face. The hardships, people. And through prayers, and acts of compassion and love, We will rise to this challenge and emerge stronger and more united folks than ever before. How was that?
I'm so glad that none of us can do an actual passable Trump impersonation.
No. It's one thing to get the cadence down. It's the other thing to...
It's the accent.
Nail the voice.
Yeah, it's the voice, that accent.
It's not a New York accent.
It's not.
It's not like Bronx.
It's just Trump. It's just Trump.
It's getting your lips in just the right spot. So then you
gotta make the face while you're doing it too.
That's part of getting the lips in the right spot. And it's one of those, you just can't. I tell you, it's a perfect accent.
One of these days, I'm just going to spend hours listening to him talk over and over again and just trying to mimic him to see if I can nail it one of these days. Someday I'll get there.
I don't care enough.
Yeah. He just says such fun things that it's just so fun to...
Fair enough.
Quote him like that. Anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's our salvation. Because, like we pointed out in...
Even Barack Obama.
Yeah, he did. What better time than these changing, tumultuous times to have Jesus standing beside us, steadying our minds, cleansing our hearts, pointing us toward what matters.
Thanks, Satan.
It's 13, actually.
Yeah, it's a national prayer breakfast. Yeah. And that's one thing that I don't like about stuff like this becoming a national day of prayer or a official thing.
Yeah.
Because I love that Reagan had the forethought to do that because at least to Reagan, it was important.
Yeah.
To everyone that followed after him, it was part of the job. Well, not everyone that followed after him, but...
Inspirational prayer number 34. Amen. It's the perfect prayer. Almost the perfect. 45 would have been better.
That sounded John Kerry-esque when you... Or
Close
not
enough.
John Kerry, Kennedy. It sounded like Kennedy at the beginning there.
Close enough.
But yeah.
No, it's not. I did a bad impression and I should feel bad. I should stop doing it.
Your impressions are bad and you should feel bad.
Yes.
So, there has been... Who was it? Glenn Beck.
Good old Beck.
Glenn Beck has suggested that this Friday, Good Friday, people fast and pray for the nation. Which is saying something coming from him because he's always... There's... As doom and gloom as he is, he does point out the ways out.
Yeah, he does.
But when he's out of options on ways out and telling you need to fast and pray... However, historically, it works. Historically speaking. So that's what I am going to do because as much as I hate our leadership and hate the direction we're going in, I want it to not be that way. And while, yes, I do this podcast and I do whatever civic duties I am able to do to try to invoke change, a little divine help doesn't hurt. Or a lot of divine help doesn't hurt.
A lot at this point.
A good heavy dose.
You know, they always say God works in mysterious ways and by small and simple things are great things brought to pass and all that stuff. I think at this point we kind of need a Moses in the Red Sea moment.
Yep.
Let my people go.
A pillar of fire wouldn't be frowned upon at this time.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. What was it? There's a survey thing that came out on what people believe is American or whatever, and money is like third.
Really?
On the list.
Really?
Yeah.
Not for much longer.
Having money is number 3 on the list of what it means to be American. Whereas before it was things like family, church, God, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that was just like 20 years ago. And now on the list is
having money.
And it's just, it's a direction that I don't want to go in because I, for one, don't want to leave behind a worse place than I grew up in for my kids.
Yep.
Well, I don't have
the
any
trends
kids,
are
so,
kind
yeah.
of going backwards as far as living standards, if I'm not mistaken.
Progressivism is really good at progressing backwards. They kind of take the what was the general in the Pacific? MacArthur. We are not retreating. We are advancing in another direction.
Yes.
It's funny then. It's not funny now. No.
Yeah.
It's bad.
So
all of the school shootings we have, all of the violence on the streets, all of the corrupt trash from politicians and judges and everything else, schools, all of it, every single one of them can be traced back to removing God from something involved with that institution.
Oh, yeah.
Every single time.
That's just, you can't actually correlate those two.
Yes, I can. Yeah, every time.
No, I wish I had the graph in front of me, but like all of the like terrible things happening, I believe, in school, or maybe it was just crime in general. It's like you look at a graph and it's just going straight up. And then like when it started to have that inflection point, it's like that was the year we eliminated prayers from school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we covered that last week.
Yeah.
Or the week before, something similar to that. Yeah, you have that. You have...
That's right, we did.
You have in Congress stepping away from having to say, "So help me God," when they swear in, and having to use a Bible to swear in. Yep. Stepping away from that, and all of a sudden the laws become so convoluted and corrupted that you have to pass it to see what's in it.
Yeah. Thank you, Pelosi.
Yeah.
In order to see the charges against Trump, we have to convict him first.
Yes. Yes.
Pretty much.
Unless, of course, you illegally leak the documents, then you can see them beforehand.
And that's a felony, by the way.
Yeah.
So the only felony we know of was actually whoever leaked the documents, which was probably
and the Trump team did not
DA
have the documents.
or his staff or members of the grand jury. So someone in there committed a felony, and that's the only verifiable felony we have.
But it happened in the district where all of this is going down. So
yeah, so we can't expect them to convict actual crimes.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating too, because New York is full of awesome stuff, just from a historical standpoint, because that used to be where the Capitol was. Capitol used to be in New York. Mm-hmm. And when George Washington was sworn in, adding the words, "So help me God," to the swearing in on the Bible, where it was randomly opened coincidentally to the only set of scripture, the only scripture reference that could be attributed to the Americas. After that, he and all of the signers and members of Congress and everyone else walked down to St. Paul's Cathedral or something like that in New York City.
Okay.
Where they proceeded to have worship services together. Now, after a swearing-in ceremony, they meet and mingle with the press, if at all, and eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, pretty much.
Huh. Yeah. Nation's heading in the wrong direction. Well, this will fix it. Not that.
Yeah.
Well,
pretty much.
You've rejected every other thing we've given you that's not that, too. So, whatever. Yeah. So, right yourself with God, however you see that to be fit. Right yourself, with your family, and work your way out from there. Because that has greater lasting influence than any stupid thing passed by Congress.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all I got.
Well, that was very uplifting, Trevor. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad you're uplifted. The only option we have is God.
Pretty much.
More or less. That sounds about right. So then, like, subscribe, follow.
Follow us on Rumble because YouTube can suck it.
Yes.
They'll probably ban this video.
Multiple times.
Because we played an entire song.
To the suck it, not the... I mean, they can ban this video multiple times if they really want to, but... I mean,
if you get more strikes, your channel's gonna be removed from YouTube. Oh no, the revenue that we don't have.
Threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. Find us on Rumble, The Naked Apple, no spaces, because we created it before they allowed that. Maybe we'll try to change it.
We should try to change it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Now that they've actually got people on their on their site.
Don't forget the very important.
Yeah, the Naked
Apple. For us.
The Naked Apple.
No space.
Yep. And make sure you have the apple in there too. I am not responsible for any of you that go looking for just naked on Rumble. It's not my fault.
All right, well, on that note.
As much as you might blame me, I did not do it.
So much for ending on a God note.
I do not consent to this.
All right. Bye. I didn't get that on recording.
Button is finally pressed.
To everyone's relief.
And the clap has been given. You have received it.
The clap deliverer arrives.
What is the name of that
Eric Clapton
band? That's funny. But no. It's Flight of the Conchords. His rap battle. He's talking about his lyrics being so potent that they make all the women in the front row pregnant. The podcast's so potent it gives you the clap. Every time.
I don't know that that's positive. That sounds suboptimal.
Hey, an apple a week keeps the doctor away.
I read it somewhere. I don't know.
Something like that.
It was on the internet. It must be true.
It must be.
An apple a day keeps the liberals at bay.
We can work with that.
If only that were true.
We can work with that. Oh no, I'm not gonna go there.
Oh, wow!
Please don't.
Wow, too dark for Mike.
Please don't.
Wow! Now everyone's on the edge of their seats. What was he gonna say?
No, I'm not.
An apple a day prays the gay away. Wait,
That's not.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry.
Anyway.
On that light note.
Wasn't much of a light note. It was more of an F or a G.
You went full retard, man.
Full. Full. spent 50 years battling the USSR, only to turn into the gay, retarded version of it.
Ain't that the truth?
Wrong button. This one.
Doesn't that like automatically get us banned from YouTube?
No. Not if you play that short of a thing.
No, not if we do it that quick.
Okay.
We played too long of a bit of it. And
More than 2 seconds.
Apparently, the USSR, even though it does not exist, still has that copyrighted through YouTube.
It's apparently copyrighted on YouTube.
Even though it was made before YouTube was created.
And I'm not sure you can actually copyright things in Soviet Russia.
Right.
I'm pretty sure in Soviet Russia, those things copyright you.
Yes.
Here we go.